Nobody tells first-time homebuyers this, because by the time they learn it, they've already signed the papers. These are 7 mistakes that look completely reasonable in the moment and only become obvious years later when it's too late to undo them. Let's start with the one almost everyone makes before they even visit a single property. Mistake number 1, buying the biggest home you can afford. The bank will tell you how much they're willing to lend you, and that number feels like permission. It isn't. That number is their limit, not yours. The bank doesn't know about your car breaking down next year. They don't know about your plans to start a family, change jobs, or take time off. They don't know what keeps you up at night. They only know what's in their spreadsheet. The smartest homebuyers borrow noticeably less than what the bank offers. Not because they have to, because they understand that financial breathing room is worth more than an extra bedroom. Buy comfort, not the ceiling. Now, this next one sounds obvious, but almost nobody actually does the math before it's too late. Mistake number 2, only looking at the monthly payment. The monthly payment is the most misleading number in real estate. It sounds manageable. It looks clean on paper, and it tells you almost nothing about what owning that home will actually cost you. Because on top of that number, you will pay property taxes, home insurance, maintenance, repairs, building fees if it's an apartment, heating bills in a house that's 3 times the size of your last place. The true monthly cost of owning a home is often 30 to 40% higher than the mortgage payment alone. Before you fall in love with any property, do this one thing. Write down every single cost, not just the payment the bank shows you. All of it, every line. If the number still works, great. If it doesn't, you just saved yourself years of stress. This next one looks like a small expense you can skip when money is already tight. It isn't. Mistake number 3, skipping the property inspection. A friend of mine bought an apartment a few years ago. The place looked perfect. Fresh paint, new floors, everything clean and bright. He was in a hurry, the seller seemed trustworthy, and the inspection felt like an unnecessary formality. He skipped it. 6 months later, he discovered serious damp behind the walls. The kind that had been there for years, carefully hidden under that fresh coat of paint. The repair cost him more than he had paid for his entire car. A professional inspection takes a few hours. It costs a small fraction of what a hidden problem will cost you later. Leaking roofs, faulty wiring, structural cracks that only show up in the basement. These things are invisible to the untrained eye, and sellers are not always going to volunteer that information. One inspection can save you from buying someone else's decade-old problem. Almost everyone thinks they're too smart to make the next mistake, until they do. Mistake number 4, falling in love with the first property you visit. The moment you start imagining Christmas in that living room, you've already stopped negotiating. You stop seeing the noise from the street. You stop noticing that the kitchen faces north and never gets sunlight. You convince yourself the commute isn't that bad. And then you offer more than you should, because losing it suddenly feels unbearable. This is not a character flaw. It's just how the brain works when it gets attached to something. The fix is simple. Make yourself a rule before you even start looking. Visit at least 5 or 6 properties before you consider making an offer on any of them. The goal of the first few visits is not to find a home. The goal is to train your eye, so that by the time you do find something worth pursuing, you see it clearly instead of through a fog of excitement. Now, here is the one that causes real pain. and it happens to far more people than you'd expect. Mistake number 5, using all your savings for the down payment. 2/3 of first-time buyers run into unexpected costs in the first year after buying. The average surprise bill comes in at around €5,000, and that's just the average. Many face significantly more. You've saved for years. You put everything you have into the down payment. You get the keys. You feel incredible. And then 2 months later, the boiler breaks. Or the roof starts leaking. Or the washing machine dies. Or all 3 in the same winter. And you have nothing left. Owning a home will always cost you money you didn't plan for. That is not a question of if. It's a question of when. Never arrive at closing day with your bank account at zero. Keep a financial buffer. A reserve you do not touch unless something fails. Because that buffer is not just money. It's the difference between a minor inconvenience and a genuine crisis. You can renovate a kitchen. You cannot renovate a location. Mistake number 6, ignoring the neighborhood and only focusing on the property. People spend hours choosing tiles for the bathroom and 30 minutes deciding whether they actually want to live in that part of the city for the next 20 years. Before you commit to any property, spend time in the neighborhood at different hours. A weekday morning, a Friday evening, a Sunday afternoon. Feel what it's like to walk those streets regularly. Check how far you really are from things that matter to your daily routine. A supermarket, a doctor, public transport, a park if you have children. Because you are not just buying 4 walls. You are buying a daily life. And that daily life will either quietly energize you or quietly drain you every single morning when you walk out the door. This last one is the one people regret the most. Not because it costs the most money, but because it's the hardest to admit. Mistake number 7, letting everyone else's timeline become your timeline. Your friends are buying. Your family keeps asking when you're going to settle down. Prices are going up, and everyone says you'll miss the window. So you rush. Here's what the data actually shows. People who felt pressured to decide quickly were nearly 3 times more likely to regret their purchase than those who took their time. 3 times. You buy something you're not sure about, in a neighborhood you haven't really explored, at a price that makes you a little nervous, because the pressure to do something felt louder than the voice telling you to wait. Buying a home under pressure is how people end up in the wrong home for the right reasons. The market will always create urgency. Sellers will always create urgency. People around you will always create urgency. Your job is to ignore all of it long enough to make a clear decision. The right home, bought at the right time for the right reasons. That's the only version of this story that ends well. So there they are. Don't borrow to your limit. Calculate the real cost. Never skip the inspection. Don't fall in love before you've seen enough. Keep your savings buffer intact. Choose the location as carefully as you choose the property. And buy because you're ready, not because everyone around you is. None of this is complicated. None of it requires expertise. It just requires someone to tell you before you sign. If this helped, subscribe. We promise you will find information worth knowing before the moment you need them. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.